Alright everybody, it is time for another Indie Dev Showcase video here on the channel. Every Wednesday night we play nothing but indie games to show off new and up and coming titles. And if we submit a title for a future one, please don't hesitate to get in touch. But we are beginning with the game that, I guess the perfect name for a game, Get Good. This is a kind of take on Getting Over It with Banfati, with our primary way of moving around is launching these projectiles, which in turn will propel us in the opposite direction. And advanced tech involves kind of chaining them together to launch yourself up walls and make major leaps. And yep, that is this game in a nutshell. So like a lot of these kinds of rage-inducing titles, there really isn't a lot here, unfortunately. We've seen some looks like to be decent examples of this kind of design, but my problem, one, is that the presentation is pretty low. There's no title screen, very limited in terms of its aesthetic, as you can see. And the other point, as with games of this kind, this can become very annoying and very hard to play on your hands after a while. You're going to be constantly having to click and press these buttons in order to keep this momentum going. And again, one misplay and you're going back down. Now, to be fair to the game, the tech is on the simple to learn side. Again, keeping this to one button and being more physics focused does help things out. But I actually had trouble learning where I was supposed to go. Apparently the ceiling is a lie in this game. And there's a part where you just have to keep launching up to what appears to be a solid ceiling, but no, that's the right way to go. And when I ran into that, that was kind of my I'm done with this game moment. Because if the game can't even properly show how things work, then I really don't want to invest more time in it. And like I said, I think there are better examples of this kind of, quote-unquote rage game out there. But I'm curious if anyone else tried this game and did they manage to get good. But with that said, let's move on to our next game. And we turn our attention to Signs of the Sojourner. Sojourner? I completely butchered that, but you'll find the name in the description down below. So this is a kind of quasi deck builder roguelike, but the twist is that instead of us using cards to battle, I guess we are card conversing instead. So the story is that we run a tourist spot with our best friend after our mother has passed away, and we have been sent out into the crazy world around in order to learn more about the people, get trinkets, and try to save our town and store. So with that said, this is still kept to be a very relatively low stakes game. You're not going to be fighting monsters or having to stop evil plots to take over the world. Instead, you choose your destination from the map, and you'll meet various people that you'll get into conversations with. As you talk to them, if you do the right thing, you'll unlock a new item that will be brought back as kind of part of your goal, and you'll get additional cards that represent various attributes and emotions that you can add to your deck there. So the challenge of the game is that the cards are set up kind of Simon Says style, in which you need to match the card that the person plays down with one of the cards in your hand. And you are told beforehand what cards or what kind of personality the person is, which in turn will allow you to kind of fine-tune your deck. But as you can see, the challenge there is that you are still at the mercy of RNG. And if you draw the wrong card, an entire match is over. As you play further in, you'll have to deal with stuff like fatigue, as you see right here, which you can then return to your home base and kind of take stock. The game or a run officially ends when you run out of weeks of travel. And part of the kind of long-term play of the game is that as you play, you unlock more stories, which in turn will allow you to get access to further places, and learn more about the people and do more with the game. Now, in terms of the general gameplay loop itself, Sojourner, again, somebody please put the correct pronunciation in chat or in the comments. The cards themselves will always have two symbols on them, and some cards will have special abilities, such as being able to see the other person's deck. Some can be a wild card that no matter what you play, it will always work. And the idea is that you are essentially cooperating with the AI, who is playing their own hand in cooperation with yours. It's a very novel take on the deck building design, but like I said, it does feel a little bit limited. Since your deck is so small, you can't exactly build around a lot of situations, and I think that's kind of the point. That for a run, if you won't have any chance of earning new items and collect new things, you need to invest heavily into the specific emotion and style of talking. So as you can see, using these circle and triangle cards, dealing with these people will be very easy. If it would be like square X or another combination, I would not be able to talk to those people at all, since my deck doesn't have any of those abilities. And yeah, that is this game. Like I said, I think it may be a little too streamlined for somebody like me who has kind of gotten used to the Monster Train, Slay the Spire formula. But if you're looking for a very low stakes version of those games, and you like to have this thing about, or you like kind of the conversations and more of the, I'm not sure, like small town or just like general like ease and calm of this game, I would say give this one a check and you may just enjoy it. And with that, let's move on to Super Gear Quest. This is one of those games that definitely falls on the weird side of things. It starts with no real tutorial about how you're supposed to play it or what's going on, and then you'll find out very unusually quick that this game definitely emulates Cave Story. From the general look to how the character is modeled, and even the story beats and progression almost feel note for note as a lesser example of the game. Now, the unique elements that Super Gear Story does do, you're able to hack various devices using those little two characters you saw a minute ago. And there are sections that take place inside our robot in order to essentially free up him from being attacked by a virus. And while those elements are certainly interesting, again, there is something a little bit weird about this game that just seems very much like a lesser example of a well-known game. And I know developers said on the store page that they were heavily inspired by these kinds of games. But at the end of the day, it still feels like, unfortunately, a lesser version of, obviously, the game that it was based on. So if you're looking for another Metroidvania-esque kind of game, then Super Gear Quest isn't that bad. It has multiple difficulty levels that can help you. But if you are still one of those people who have not yet played Cave Story, then you definitely want to take a look at that one before you check this out. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with a few more indie games. And now for a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom supporters and sponsors. Going forward, all Patreon supporters will get early access to our videos. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. If you're looking for more wisdom about game design, be sure to check out my latest offering of books, 20 Essential Games to Study, aimed for first-time developers and students looking for some inspiration for their upcoming games, and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers if you're interested in anything regarding 2D and 3D platforming design. They're both available in print, digital, and wherever books are being sold. For our next game, we turn to 2-Bit Hero. This is a Metroidvania, with the main hook being obviously the 2-bit aesthetic here. But as with a lot of these kinds of retro takes on these genres, the execution unfortunately leaves a lot to be desired. First, you have kind of the annoying sound effects, as you heard when I'm going to be hitting enemies with my main weapon. But the game's biggest, I guess, design sin is that there is no map or no in-game mapping that we could find. So you are required to go through these very identical looking hallways, again, not helped by the fact that it is a 2-bit aesthetic, and you're just trying to figure out where the heck you're supposed to go. And unfortunately, there's just no way you're going to be able to do that here. Now, to be fair to 2-Bit Hero, the controls feel right in my hands. I don't have any issues with them, even despite the fact that we are using a keyboard. But as you can see as I am wandering along here, there's just not really a lot going on. The developers went for kind of very wide environments, which adds to the time spent wandering around. But again, when you fill your room with maybe 1 or 2 enemies in it, it still doesn't mean you're doing a lot there. Now, there were some boss fights, and we did start to get at least some kind of power-ups or abilities. But again, in the age of so many developers making Metroidvania-style titles, your game really needs to hit it out of the park from minute 1, if you want to convince somebody that your game is worth its time. And unfortunately with 2-Bit Hero here, I didn't see it. But with that, we'll turn to our final game for this video, and that is What the Golf. And this is probably one of the most enjoyable games I've had a chance to play in some time. So, this is a game that's all about figuring out all the ways to make golf interesting. And it turns out the best way to do that is to remove any semblance of golf out of the equation. Our story is that we play a sentient golf ball who is exploring a mysterious golfing facility who has been tasked with trying to figure out how to make golf more exciting and fun to be enjoyed by people. That is the actual plot of this game. And to do that, we are going to explore the many experiments in this facility. The game is split into various sections, with each section kind of having a different theme or different set of objectives when it comes to our golf not golf experience. Now, one thing that What the Golf gets right, besides just the humor and hilarity, is the variety. What you're going to see in this part of our video here is just a snippet of all the different mechanics and themes the developer came up with in order to basically mix and destroy the formula of golf as we know it. And as you can see, this is again not even the extent of the weirdness. There's one section involved using a portal gun to golf, another involves using trains, there's even super golf that combines super hot with putting, and the game again just, it's one of those games that is just like a childlike wonder in terms of all the ways they make this exciting. Now, another aspect of this game that I really want to praise the developers for is the use of its challenge. Every level or every kind of puzzle in What the Golf has 3 levels of challenge to go with it. So the first thing that is required to beat the course or beat the hole, that's the easy one. You can then go back in for a secondary challenge that will usually add some kind of constraint or modifier. And this is per level. So for one challenge, it could be, okay, you beat this level, now do it under a par. Or do it while collecting or hitting certain objects. And then the third one is the advance or another variant of it. And this essentially will triple the number of levels in What the Golf. And similar to that of Nintendo's philosophy, these bonus challenges can get very difficult, especially depending on the base challenge that they're associated with. And I could just spend like the rest of this video just cutting every few seconds to just the variety that you're going to find in What the Golf. And like I said, definitely one of my favorite games I've played as of late. And we did actually finish the game on stream, and developers are working on, I believe, DLC and more courses to come later on. If I had any complaints about the game, some of the challenges are very hard on your hands. Some of the racing ones require you to constantly click and drag repeatedly in order to kind of move the ball or your object along. And when you have to do that so fast and so repetitively, it began to hurt my wrists. And that's something to keep in mind with some of these challenges. And also, some of the levels are definitely harder and easier in a sense compared to some of the others. It's not a case of strictly a growing or a linear line in terms of difficulty. I ran into some early challenges that just frustrated me, while there are later challenges that I managed to one-shot all 3 of their versions in a single go. But with all that said, this is just a really solid game and a strong example again of just nailing what your core gameplay loop is and exploring all the ways that you can manipulate and build off of it. And if you haven't played this game yet, this definitely gets my strongest recommendation for our video here. And when they release more content, I am definitely going to be checking it out and asking what the golf. Because as it turns out, the secret to making golf fun is to just ignore everything that has to do with golf in the process. With that said, we're going to wrap up our Indie Dev Spotlight here. I would like to thank developers who submitted games. As always, you'll find links to those titles in the description down below. And if you'd like me to take a look at your game in the future, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And as always, come back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until next time, take care. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoy things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.